Okay, so we're looking at numbers 66 and 67 together using a graph to find the domain and range of a function. The domain is related to x values, the range, y values. So the domain of a function is basically a list of all the possible x values a function can take, a function can have. So if I'm looking at the x values, right, and consider that this function goes off the graph and continues forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Whoops. All right. So at x equals, let's say, -2, the function is defined. At x equals -1, it's defined. At x equals 0, it's defined. At x equals 1, it's defined. At x equals 2, it's defined. At x equals 3, it's defined all the way up here. At x equals 4, it's defined all the way up there. At x equals 5, you can imagine that it's defined all the way up here because this continues forever. At x equals 6, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7. Literally for any x value, because this continues forever, the function will be defined. So the domain of this function, using interval notation, goes from -infinity to +infinity. This is the same domain for any parabola. Any quadratic function, any parabola, has this same domain. Now the range, we're talking about y values. So clearly we can see that at y equals -6, the function is not defined. There's no graph here at y equals -6. There's no graph at y equals -5. But at y equals -4, that's the first value where we see the function at y equals -4. -4 is included, right? At -3, it's defined. At -2, -1, at 0, at 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can imagine every y value past that. At 7, at 8, at 9, and this continues forever, so it goes all the way up to infinity. That's my domain and my range. Same idea here. Domain, we're looking for x values. -6, there's no function here. -5, -4, I'm looking at the x values for my domain. -3, there's nothing. -2, -1. But at x equals 0, there's our first glimpse of the function. At x equals 0. At 1, at 2, at 3, at 4, at 5, at 6. And this continues. 7, 8, 9, 10. Every x value past that is defined. The range, looking at y values, -6, there's no function. -5, 4, 3, 2, and -1. There it is. At -1, and this continues up and to the right forever. So even though it's increasing slowly, 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll eventually hit 5, 6, all the way up to infinity. Every y value past that, you'll get the function. It'll be far to the right, but you'll get it. That's your domain and range.